Thank you so very much, Mr. Moderator Dolente. It's another great day indeed, and those are the topics that we are going to deal with. One is um, insubordination and treasonable behavior within the Ghana Security Services. We'll be talking about insubordination and acts that are treasonable in nature within the Ghana Security Services. I'm not targeting any particular one. I'm just throwing a blanket. Of course, there are a number of them, a number of security services. Some are very professional indeed. But I don't want to start talking about any particular service to create the impression that maybe I've singled them out for attack. No, that's not what I'm really doing. Now the other topic I hope we'll be able to tackle is this: that there will be at least 3 more coups d'etat in Africa before the end of 2023. So brace yourselves up. There are definitely going to be 3 more coups d'etat in Africa before the end of this year. Yeah, so let's start with the security services. Generally, the security services are established to sort of keep the peace within the country, and also to ensure that any external aggression that is coming in any form is sort of checked. So those are what the security services are meant to do. But it has other ancillary, sort of roles that it performs. For example, they also check things like bringing in unwanted substances like drugs, bringing in guns, bullets, and maybe even malefactors, people who are criminals outside of Ghana, coming into the country. Then also within the country itself, we have law enforcement. We are human beings. We are not, an anarchic state. An anarchic state is a state or a place or a community or, a country that has no structures, and so everybody acts with impunity. So we have structures within the country to ensure that based upon our cultures, traditions, and experiences, we have our laws. And then these laws, are crafted, and then we have the court to deal with people who, sort of infringe upon these rules, regulations, and laws that we have. And we have persons and people who will pursue or who will enforce the law, make sure that the law is obeyed. And these, in fact, the very life of the security system within Ghana and the rest of Africa, for that matter, was actually triggered after 1884, when Otto von Bismarck of Germany summoned people to Berlin, and they sat down and they cut Africa into pieces. They looked and said, look, we have a continent where a group of people are there. They are a host of tribes, in their various enclaves. They are not developed, but they have a lot of resources. So let's go. We in Europe, the countries of Europe, France, Germany, Belgium, and Denmark, and all those places there. He said, look, don't let us be fighting ourselves. Let's go to Africa. And then cut the place up and share it, and then loot their resources. So that is the very reason, a purpose for which they came here. And so they just came. Of course, they were advanced in technology at that time. They could survey lands, and they knew longitudes and latitudes. They could plot, all manner of places. So they drew the map of Africa and then cut it out and said, you, France, go to this area. Britain also go to this area. The war that we have been fighting amongst ourselves, let us leave them and go and share Africa. So when they cut up Africa, they then went around getting people, for example, the British, they have what they call the indirect rule, where, they hit somewhere and then they will collect a number of villages where they came and the people were well organized. They left it like that. For example, the houses were well organized. They had, emirs in Nigeria, northern Nigeria, for example. They had a system there, so it was very easy. When they came to Ghana, they found that the Ashantis were well organized with an Asantehene, so they left it. They came over to the north here. They saw that the Gonjans were well organized. They said, oh, they have a Yagumura who superintends over a whole lot of people. Then they went to the Gombes. They had a Yana who superintends over a lot of people. They went to the Nanumbes. They also had somebody, and then some one or two other tribes. They saw that these tribes, they had rulers. But when they went to certain parts of the northern region, for example, they found out that we were in a very small tribes. You find almost every village you went, they had a head. So they wrote letters and told lies to the colonial office that we were not organized, that we were acephalous, that we didn't have rulers, which was a lie. So, for example, they could come to Wa and then get the number of thousand villages, Funsi, Kaleo, Nadoli, go and get Dormo or Wichao, put them together and say you are under Wana. Then they'll go to Nandom, they'll get a whole big area and say, oh, you are also under Nandom. Go to another place, get a number of towns and say you are under Lambusi, you are under Tumu and all that. That's how they did it. Why did they do that? They did that so that the people would make roads. So they appointed sub-headmen, headmen, sub-chiefs, and chiefs. Chiefs for the mobilization of labor. That is how your chieftaincy came. So don't listen to anybody who says you don't have heads. You had them. But they were the Tingadana, I believe, means owner of the land or the head of the state. The land is the state. Totana means head of state. So, the long and short of it was that we were just to make these roads. And the roads were to lead to areas for them to go and come and carry the resources away. Then they saw that there needed to be some order. For example, anytime they said, ask some area to go and make a road, the people won't go out, they won't come. So they went and brought enforcers, who we now call policemen. And the first group of enforcers who came were Nigerians. They went to northern Nigeria, where, they had organized themselves. They went and brought Nigeria, and they came and started the police force here. And most of it was the police force that they had were actually at the harbor. At that time, we didn't even have a harbor. It was a wharf in Accra, Osu area. So they were there so that if ships came, people wouldn't go and steal. So it was from there that things started developing. Then they set up the West African Frontier Force and all those things. Then we started having soldiers. There was a lot of discipline. There was a lot of discipline within the service. They went and got the most able-bodied persons and put them into the security services. They trained them, and what normally happened, for example, in the army, when they came for you and they took you to the training ground, to the barracks, and you were going to be trained, they made sure that the civilian behavior in you, they will remove it and then put a military type of life inside you, discipline you, And then they had this sort of arrowhead type of, soldiering, system of management. The organization was, do before you complain type. But why was it like that? A lot of people don't understand it. Because of that, they even call soldiers zombies. That when they say do something, you just do it. No, the reason is this. Within the security services, and with particular reference to the army, somebody should be there who will be able to give you an order to go to a particular point, even though he knows that where you are going, your enemy is there is likely to shoot you, but you won't complain. So if there is indiscipline, how are you going to order somebody to battle, to go and fight? There is danger somewhere. You are sitting down with your wife and children, and they ask you to go to Boko. When you know that when you go to Boko, you can be shot and killed, or to go to war. Look at what is happening in Ukraine. Ukraine, more than 150,000 young men have been killed in the Ukraine, and they are still getting more and sending them there. If there's no discipline, who would do that? That is why you have this discipline within the security and intelligence services. So if this discipline starts to break down, then the system is finished. Because the security services live on three things. One, loyalty. Two, allegiance. The third one is compatibility. So when you are enlisted, in fact, in the colonial days, if you were going to the army, the common question was, why do you want to enter the army? And the most common answer was, I'm coming to die for my country. I'm coming to die for my country. Somebody asked me a similar question. I said, no, I'm not. Said, why are you coming into the security service? I said, I'm coming so that the enemy will die for his country. And the person attacking me, he should die for his country. Why should I die for my country? If I die for my country, who will live to defend my country? So the enemy, he should rather die. When the enemy is coming, I'll make sure that he dies for his country. Anyway, so those were the things that were happening. What is loyalty? Loyalty means you have come because you love the country. In fact, when you came, your main allegiance was to loyalty to the state. You have come to defend the country. You haven't come to defend any individual. You have come first to defend the country. Then we talk of allegiance. Allegiance to the system in which you are, to follow their laws and rules and regulations, and also allegiance to the orders that are given to you. Then compatibility. Compatibility is you must be compatible with the rules and laws and regulations of the government of the day. So there are three: loyalty, allegiance, and compatibility. So when you come in, and then you are a junior officer who ought to, obey without any complaint the orders of your senior, and then you go on and start to backbite the person, to badmouth the person, to even shift yourself out of, the compartmentation system, the system of the cybernetic system within every organization within the security system, the police, the army, customs, prisons, immigration, and fire service. They have what we call a cybernetic system within them. A cybernetic system is a self-steering and self-correcting type of way of management. So that is why if you have a grievance, there are areas. There's a place for you to go and air your grievance. You don't go outside of the system and go and be complaining. If you have anything, there is some particular area you have to go and then talk. That is why you see the security services, when something happens and you go and then you ask any of them, to give his idea about what is happening. You say, no, I'm not the officer to do that. So we have what we call compartmentation or compartmentalization. Compartmentation is this, that you are given a role and that is your role. That is where you are between that. You are a driver. You go, you are a driver. You are a cook. You are there as a cook. You are a clerk. That is what you should be doing. You don't jump here and there. Of course, within the army, the basic training is given you, even if you are a cook, but you should learn to shoot, because when things get hot, you have to jump out of your kitchen and go and fire some guns. You see, but what I'm saying is that those days, things were so well cut out. People, not that things were good for them, but they didn't go about backbiting each other, bad-mouthing each other, and then disobeying orders and openly saying that, my boss is this and that, is useless, can't do his job. And you must not also step out of your role within your security system and begin to talk bad about that security. Look, every security system must defend itself. The police must defend themselves seriously against any bad thing that is coming from the public or even government or anything. They have, every police force in the world does that. The army does that. They won't allow you. That is why in the army you will hear this: all for one and one for all. What do we mean by all for one and one for all? If you touch one soldier, the whole military service they will jump on you and deal with you. They will, because if they allow it to go, like this Major Muhammad who was killed in the village, they descended on them. Because when they allow it, you see that the civilians with impunity, they will start, the sort of respect that and the awe that they have for the army. It will go away. When it goes away, the state has failed. You see, because the army is our last hope to defend us. And if anybody can just get up and let's say go and burn an army barracks, then we are finished. And that is why when you are there must be discipline. So that is why when I hear of a security man, going about talking against his seniors, disobeying orders, going to political, trying to play politics for positions, it's not the best. It is not. It's unacceptable. It doesn't happen in any place. Go and check the American army whether you have that. British army, German. No. Well, immediately you start like that, they say you are useless. And so is it also with the police service. Every service. But what has brought all this? Now I was exposed to the security system from about 1961. I was exposed to the security system in 1961. And by 1969, I was part of the system. There was discipline. When it came to, recruitment, you were recruited because you were fit, you were qualified, and you were the best for the position. Otherwise, how could most of us have entered those services? That was what was happening. Unfortunately, these days it is not like that. And when the security services start to experience this rubbish and nonsense that we are seeing today in some of the services, some of the areas are still intact. But in some, there are challenges. When did it start? It started after Le Mans was overthrown. I can even say from June 4th, 1979. When, they staged the June 4th, the young army officers started, molesting their senior officers. Then in 81, 31st December, they came and started politicizing the security services. They politicized the security services. I was outside the country, both 79 and 81. But when I came back, I was shocked. They had politicized the security service. The PNDC politicized the security service. People openly identified with the PNDC, and they were hanging Rawlings photographs and pictures in their offices. I saw that, and said, what is this? What is this? They had a forces sergeant major within the military service. And then within the police service, we had Jack Beble, a sergeant. This sergeant, he went and set up his own barracks at cantonments with some tents, and he was living there and giving orders to commissioned officers. Jack Beble. Then there were two other people. Somehow they were even my friends, Alidu and Hamidu. Inspector Halidu and Inspector Hamidu. They came for Hajj in 1984 in Saudi Arabia, and I met them. When they came back, Hamidu, but they were, they were so close to Rawlings. Hamidu, he went ahead. He went to the police college, and then he's retired now, I believe, as a commissioner of police. But Alidu, finally, he had to leave the police service. They were so powerful. They were then inspected, very powerful. Anything that they did, the police issued. When I came back, I was shocked. The police will issue a statement that, they have taken administrative notice of what they had done. I remember they went and did something like that at the, this motorway, Tema motorway, and then the police had to, the IGP at that time, this was in the 80s, so I will say that it is the PNDs who have brought all this rubbish into the security services. Of course, I will also say that by 1992, when we were about to go to, this multi-party system, orders were issued to all the security services to try to tone down the politicization, people's defense committees, and all the within the security system. They started telling them to tone down, because we were now going to something. But all the same, when the first NDC, government came to power, it was still there. Impunity was still there. So they started, of course, most of them could have been liars, people who wanted just to quickly say that they are NDC, or PNDC, or they were People's Defense Committees, Workers' Defense Committees, or all sorts of funny committees all over the place. So they were those who were getting the jobs. If you did not identify yourself vigorously as a follower of the PNDs at that time, you couldn't get any job within the security service. That was what was happening, to the neglect of the others. So it was at that time that all manner of funny people started going into the security services. And they started paying allegiance to those who put them there. When the NDC came, they were doing the same thing. If you wanted to enter security, they'll ask you, are you with us? Are you with us? I myself, one day somebody asked me, are you with us? I said, with who? Are you NDC? I said, I'm a Ghanaian. No, I'm a Ghanaian. See, so that was the system that we had at that time, and we went on until the MPP came to power in 2001. So when they came in, they noticed that for so many years, some people were not getting the jobs. So when MPP came to power, when Kufuor came, they wanted also to push their people into the system. Now, so they had to look around and look at soft areas where they could also force their people inside. They tried the army. It wasn't working very well because the military are very strong with this. Even the police, they were also resistant. But then they saw mobilization. Then they quickly came out and said that there was no law establishing mobilization. So they collapsed mobilization. It was the MPP of 2001 that collapsed mobilization and actually merged it with the NADMO. They asked for NADMO. Every officer within NADMO was actually dismissed and had to reapply. The whole country, everybody reapplied, and most of them, in fact, NADMO before the MPP came in 2001. If you were not NDC, you couldn't go there. Now, that I was there. I was in NADMO. How I went in was another matter. And when they asked me, I said, "Now you NDC?" I said, "What do you mean by that?" Me, NDC. I'm a Ghanaian. They did everything. They failed, and I was inside. Then, unfortunately, when MPP also came, all of us were dismissed. They said we should reapply. When we reapplied, then the MPP people, they also quickly said I was NDC. I said, when I came, NDC said I wasn't part of them. You two, you have come, you say I'm not. So I was there. So they sent people around the whole country to come and then conduct interviews. The whole of NADMO had to go for interviews. So we went for the interview. Then some people went and lobbied that they were pure MPP, so they should make them here. When the results came, they were all demoted. Every single person was demoted, except Son of Man. Everybody. It was 2002, 2003. Everybody was demoted. They all lost their jobs, some by 2 or 3 ranks down. Sanowan was the only one who maintained his position, and even a year later was promoted as chief disaster control officer. Anyway, so I'm talking of indiscipline. It is not acceptable within the security system. And these things keep bringing themselves up. And I'm saying that it is the activities and actions of the previous governments that brought about these things. If they had not, brought about this, we wouldn't have had all these problems. So later on, I think the NPP too, they then realized that, oh yeah, Charlie, let us also be putting our people in. And this particular NPP government, they are the worst. They have done things. Go to the various security services. They have pushed everybody everywhere. Everybody everywhere. Push. But of course, Ghanaians too, is that not what we like? Well, the lights have gone off, so we are just waiting. If they come on, then we'll continue. Thank you all very, very much.